So guys, before you make a dumb decision, not a mistake, a dumb decision, a dumb choice, think of the higher power. Your mother, your father, your children.
Nationwide, league-wide, there's a lot of attention on gun violence.
Whose gun were you holding?
Well, the gun wasn't mine. It's not who I am. I don't condone any type of violence.
The Memphis Grizzlies have been one of the most impressive teams in the NBA this season, exceeding expectations and proving to be a tough opponent for even the league's top teams. Despite some early season struggles and unexpected circumstances with Ja Morant, the Grizzlies have managed to make their way into playoff contention, and many experts believe they have what it takes to make a deep run in this year's postseason. And in today's video, we will be determining if the Memphis Grizzlies have a real shot at winning a championship this season by looking at the 5 players that have to step up the most. But before going any further, I noticed that more than 90% of you guys are not subscribed. So what are you doing? Make sure you smash the subscribe button and make sure you hit that like button if you're new to the channel. So let's start off by talking about the first player that needs to step up on this Grizzlies team for them to even have a remotely close chance at winning a championship. And this is easily Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane has been stepping it up the past 5 games without Ja Morant, and he had a stellar performance against the Golden State Warriors. He had 26 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, and 1 steal. Having a 3-point scorer like Desmond Bane is also very crucial when you go into the playoffs, because when you play playoff basketball, it's a lot of half-court defense, and if Desmond Bane can put up 20+ points in the playoffs, it's going to spread out the floor for Ja Morant, and Ja Morant's going to get his in the paint. In the playoffs, Desmond Bane is a knockdown 3-point shooter, averaging 49% beyond the arc. This Desmond Bane stat absolutely shocked me, and if he can shoot lights out like this in the playoffs, Memphis Grizzlies fans, you guys are going to be good. The second player that has to step up for the Memphis Grizzlies during the playoffs is Dillon Brooks. Although Dillon Brooks talks a lot of shit, he's gonna have to back it up eventually, because right now, although Dillon Brooks plays good against the Golden State Warriors, against everyone else he's not really that good, and he is a pretty inefficient player as he's shooting 32% from the 3-point line and 39% from the field. His field goal percentage continued to drop every single season, and if you can see these numbers, they do not look good. So if the Grizzlies want any chance in the playoffs, they need Dillon Brooks hitting his shots at a 40+ field goal percentage. Now let's move on to the third player that has to step up for the Memphis Grizzlies to win a championship, and this is Ja Morant. He has always consistently been a very good playoff player, and last year in the playoffs, Ja Morant averaged 27 points, 8 rebounds, and 9.8 assists per game. These numbers are all brilliant, but the problem with Ja Morant is that he has a lot of off-court issues, and when these affect you late in the season, it is very detrimental to your team when you're trying to get back into the groove and peak before the playoffs start, because by the time Ja Morant gets back in the groove with his team, the playoffs are going to start. This one mistake by Ja Morant could be the reason why they don't win a championship. The fourth player that has to step up on the Memphis Grizzlies is most definitely Tyus Jones. This is probably the most important player in my opinion. He has been averaging 17.6 points, 7.9 assists, and 3.8 rebounds without Ja Morant. These numbers are outstanding, and once he plays at that 6-man role, he's going to be so much more comfortable, because if you think about it, he had a lot of ball handling duties when Ja Morant was out. And another reason why Tyus Jones is so important for this Memphis Grizzlies team going into the playoffs is because he can help put some load off Ja Morant. Ja Morant doesn't have to always look to pass. He can give the ball to Tyus Jones, and Tyus Jones can go ahead and do the work. Cause trust me, you do not want Dillon Brooks being the playmaking guy. But one thing that excites me about this Memphis Grizzlies team is the fact that Tyus Jones continues to improve, and without Ja Morant, this could be a very good thing for him, because he's more experienced on the court, bringing the ball up, and every single season he continues to have a little bit of an uptick on his points. Last season, Tyus Jones played 73 games and averaged 8.7 points per game, 2.4 rebounds per game, and 4.4 assists per game, and this season it's looking like a different story, and he's averaging 10.4 points per game, 2.4 rebounds, and 5 assists. Although these numbers aren't that great of a jump, it still shows that Tyus Jones is willing to take that little step year after year, and he accepts his role even if he's starting, or if Tyus Jones is coming off the bench, he likes either or, and he comes out to play hard every single night. Tyus Jones always takes amazing care with the ball, and he's averaging 0.9 turnovers, and he can be a guy that can play a lot of point guard minutes in the playoffs because he rarely turns the ball over. And finally, let's move on to the fifth player that needs to to step up on this Memphis Grizzlies team, and knowing that Steven Adams is out, this means that Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to have to take on more of the load. But Triple J showed that he could do it. He could take on the load, and he dropped 28 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, and 1 block last night against the Dallas Mavericks. Jaren Jackson Jr. also gives you a nice rim protector that can help guard people like DeAndre Ayton, and this is the case as Jaren Jackson Jr. is averaging 3.1 blocks per game, such an important rim protector on this squad. Jaren Jackson Jr. can also spread out the floor, an amazing 3-point shooter for a big man, and is averaging 17.7 points per game, 6.6 rebounds, and 3.1 blocks per game. This is insane. Half of these players that I mentioned in this video are so young, including Jaren Jackson Jr. So even if they don't do well this year in the playoffs, I can see them growing and coming back even stronger. But I want to talk about another bonus player before we leave today's video, and this is Luke Canard. This Memphis team has a lot of shooters, but they're gonna have another guy like Luke Canard replacing Danny Green on the squad. They got Danny Green in hopes that he would be a good player, but Danny Green had other options and he went to the Cleveland Cavaliers. So Luke Canard provides his team with a lot of shooting, and he demonstrated that against the Mavs last night. He had 10 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist. This isn't like the craziest stat ever, but if Luke Canard can go out there and drain you some threes, it's going to be very important in the playoffs, especially because when you're building a team around Ja Morant, you need shooters so it can space the floor so Ja Morant could just go in the paint and do his crazy windmill dunks. And teams like the Milwaukee Bucks that have won a championship before, you could see that their team is constructed with shooters around Giannis Antetokounmpo, so I think that this is what the Memphis Grizzlies are doing. And if they can continue to develop their players like Tillman, Santi, Aldama, Roddy, Canard, all these guys can be very, very good role players next season and even in this year's playoff. But the Memphis Grizzlies have so much talent that eventually they're going to have to limit this roster and see the 9-man rotation that they're going to have to use in the playoffs, because I'm excited to see it. But Memphis Grizzlies fans, I want your take on this. Do you think that Ja Morant can come back and, do a miracle story, get the chemistry back with this team, and get them to the conference finals? Or do you think that this roster needs another year to help construct themselves so they're more prepared for the playoffs? And before we leave today's video, what are you doing? Make sure you smash that like button. Let's get this video to 100 likes if you enjoyed it, and make sure you smash the subscribe button if you're new to the channel. But that's been all for your boy Mubsy Hoops. I will catch you guys in the next one.